Sign it, if you want to marry her with a teacher's salary. The words cut through the Ashford dining room like a blade. Nicholas King sat frozen, the 47-page prenup trembling in his hands. Across the table, Sharon's father leaned back in his velvet chair, Rolex glinting under the chandelier. Her mother sipped wine, smiling as if the humiliation was a game. And Sharon, the woman who once said money didn't matter, stood silent. They see you as poor, Nick, her father sneered. We just need protection for our assets. Nicholas looked up, eyes calm but burning. Protection from what? Love. No one answered. In that silence he realized, this wasn't about marriage. It was a test. And tonight they'd learn who was really being measured. He picked up the gold pen. The ink touched paper. The world shifted. Because what the Ashfords didn't know was that the poor teacher they were mocking had just signed away their future. Broken heart, don't miss what happens next. Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for stories that hit straight to the soul. Nicholas didn't say a word as the ink dried. The silence inside the Ashford mansion was deafening, thick with perfume, power, and judgment. Mr. Ashford raised his glass of scotch. Smart man, he said, satisfied. Knows his place. Nicholas met his gaze once. Calm, unreadable. We'll see about that, he said quietly. That night, Sharon held his arm as they left the mansion, heels clicking across marble floors that weren't his world. In the car she spoke softly. You know my parents. They just worry. It's not personal. Nothing's ever personal when it's about money, Nicholas said, eyes on the road. She flinched but said nothing. The headlights stretched into the cold night as he drove home, not angry, just awake. 3 weeks later, the wedding was beautiful, expensive, and hollow. 200 guests smiled, toasted, and whispered about the teacher who'd lucked out. Nicholas smiled back, never mentioning that the gold ring on his finger weighed less than the truth he carried. Life in the penthouse began like a photograph. Glossy, framed, unreal. Sharon worked long hours managing her family's properties. Nicholas graded papers at the kitchen counter while Ethan, his 6-year-old son, built Lego castles on the marble floor. The air always smelled of new leather and quiet tension. One evening, Ethan tripped and spilled orange juice across a white couch imported from Italy. Sharon's voice sliced through the air. Do you know what that costs? Nicholas turned steady. He's 6, Sharon. It's juice. 6 isn't stupid, she snapped. He needs to learn respect for things that matter. Like furniture. Like responsibility, she fired back, but her eyes said something else, embarrassment. The next morning, she left a cleaning bill on the counter. $3,200. Half is yours, she said without meeting his eyes. Nicholas paid. He didn't argue. He watched. Weeks passed, and the distance between them grew wider than the penthouse windows. Sharon's laughter sounded different now. Louder, practiced, hollow. Dinners at her parents' mansion turned into weekly performances of humiliation. Her father would joke about real careers. Her mother would ask if Nicholas planned to upgrade from public school someday. Sharon never defended him. But Nicholas had patience. The kind built through grief, single parenting, and long nights of lesson plans no one thanked him for. He remembered Sarah, his late wife, and how she'd made love feel like safety, not status. Sometimes when Ethan asked about her, Nicholas would whisper, "She's the reason we never give up." One Saturday, Sharon invited him to lunch with her friends, real estate brokers, influencers, people who used networking as a verb. Nicholas arrived early, wearing his best jacket. He paid for parking even though Sharon's friends didn't have to. Inside, laughter sparkled like champagne. He smiled politely until he heard it. His name, followed by a laugh that didn't belong to love. A teacher. $48,000 a year. Can you imagine? 48. That's less than my vacation budget. I know, Sharon said, her tone light, careless. I thought my parents were wrong. Turns out they weren't. Nicholas froze at the doorway. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. In that moment, The silence between them died for good. Hours later, Sharon climbed into his car, phone glowing. "Why are we leaving so early?" Nicholas started the engine. "We need to go somewhere." Her brows furrowed. "Where?" "You'll see." He drove first to the school where he taught. Brick walls, peeling paint, broken windows, and laughter echoing from a playground built by volunteers. "This is where I met you," he said quietly. "At that fundraiser. You said teachers were heroes. I still think." "No, you don't." He pulled away before she could finish. Next stop, a blue house with chipped paint and a small porch. "This is where I grew up," Nicholas said. "My dad built that porch with his hands. My mom was a nurse. They didn't have money, but they had respect." Sharon looked out the window, silent. Finally, he stopped at the cemetery on the edge of town. The air was still cold, honest. He walked ahead. Sharon followed slowly. "This is Sarah," he said, kneeling at a simple stone. "Ethan's mom. She died of cancer when he was 3. We couldn't afford the best treatment. We lost everything trying to save her. But she never once made me feel like I wasn't enough." Nicholas turned. His voice broke but didn't falter. "You talk about worth like it's a number. She taught me worth is how you treat people when no one's watching." Sharon's eyes shimmered with guilt, but Nicholas's next words froze her. "You're pregnant." Her lips parted. "How did you? I heard you today. Every word." Her shoulders sagged. "Nicholas, please." "No," he said firmly. "You were right about one thing. The prenup protects your family's money. But soon it'll protect mine." The car ride home was silent except for the sound of rain hitting glass. Steady, relentless, cleansing. For the next 3 weeks, Sharon changed. Apologies filled the house like echoes. She cooked. She smiled. She tried. Nicholas said little. He counted days. To December 15th, his 35th birthday, the day everything would change. That morning, the phone calls began before sunrise. His lawyer. His accountant. Reporters. His uncle's name flashing across Bloomberg headlines. Robert King, tech entrepreneur, leaves $10 million inheritance to nephew Nicholas King. By the time Sharon stumbled out of bed, phone in hand, her face was pale. "Is it true?" she whispered. Nicholas closed his laptop. "Yes. You're rich." "No. I've been rich in silence for years. Today I just stopped pretending." That evening, the Ashfords hosted a celebration dinner. The table was set with their finest china. Mr. Ashford poured wine and smiled like a man who'd just met an opportunity. "Nicholas," he said warmly, "I owe you an apology." Nicholas's tone stayed even. "No, you don't. You owe me honesty." Mrs. Ashford leaned forward. "We misjudged you. But now that things are different." Nicholas cut her off. "Different? Because I have money now. Because your daughter married into something useful." Silence swallowed the room. "I want a divorce," he said quietly. Sharon's glass shattered against the floor. "No. You can't." "I can," Nicholas said. "And I will. The prenup makes sure you keep everything that's yours. Which, conveniently, includes none of mine." Her father's composure cracked. "We'll void it." "My lawyers can." "Your lawyers wrote it," Nicholas interrupted. "Ironclad. Remember. You wanted protection. You've got it." Sharon fell to her knees, tears spilling fast now. "Please, Nicholas, don't do this. I was stupid. I let them change me. But I love you." "Do you love me?" he asked softly. "Or do you love that I'm rich now?" "I love you," she sobbed. "I loved you before this. I just forgot how." Nicholas turned away. "Then prove it." He gave her 30 days. 1 month to show she could be the woman she once pretended to be. Not for wealth, not for image, but for love. The first week, she volunteered at Lincoln High, the same crumbling school where Nicholas taught. She tutored kids who couldn't afford private lessons. She stayed late, cleaned chalkboards, and ate cafeteria food beside students who didn't know her name. The second week, she picked Ethan up from school every day. They built forts out of blankets, baked cookies, and laughed over burned batches. One night, Ethan fell asleep in her lap. Sharon whispered, "He's such a good kid. I was blind not to see it." The third week, a letter arrived. A $500,000 donation to City Hope Cancer Center, in memory of Sarah King. Sharon tried to hide it. "I didn't want you to think I was buying forgiveness," she said. "I just wanted her remembered." Nicholas read the letter twice. The hospital wanted to name a research wing after Sarah. For once, his heart softened. The fourth week, Sharon packed her designer dresses, left the penthouse, and moved into a modest 2-bedroom rental. "I'm done living like money's the only thing that matters," she said simply. She got a job at a non-profit helping low-income families find housing. Pay was small. The joy was real. Every evening she'd come home tired but smiling, hands calloused, heart lighter. 30 days later, Nicholas sat across from her in their tiny living room. "You did it," he said quietly. "You actually changed." Sharon's hands trembled. "Does that mean?" "It means I believe you're trying, for the right reasons." Months passed. Their daughter, Grace, was born on a warm June night. Sharon wept as she held her newborn. Ethan leaned over the crib and whispered, "Can I call you Mom now?" Sharon broke down completely. "I'd be honored," she said. They lived simply. The inheritance stayed mostly untouched. Nicholas still taught chemistry. Sharon still worked with families who needed help. Their happiness was quiet, real, built from scratch. 6 months later, a letter arrived. City Hope Cancer Center was naming its new facility the Sarah King Memorial Research Center. Sharon cried for hours. "She'll save lives, Nicholas," she whispered. "Because she mattered. Because now I finally understand what love means." Nicholas smiled softly. "You had to lose everything to find yourself." "Maybe," Sharon said. "But I'd lose it again if it meant ending up here." Outside, the city lights glowed faintly against the night. The same world that once laughed at a poor teacher now lit by the quiet power of redemption. And far away, in the Ashford mansion, Mr. Ashford poured himself another drink, staring at headlines announcing the Sarah King Center's opening, funded by his former son-in-law. For the first time he saw his own reflection in the glass. Small, hollow, defeated. Because in the end, money couldn't buy class. Couldn't buy love. And it sure couldn't protect arrogance from justice. That night, Nicholas stood by the window, the city glowing beneath him. Grace slept softly in Sharon's arms, Ethan humming in the next room. For the first time in years, silence felt peaceful, not heavy. He had walked through humiliation, loss, and betrayal, and somehow found a life more honest than the mansion ever promised. Sharon's laughter floated from the hallway, light and unguarded, and he realized redemption wasn't about winning. It was about becoming whole. Outside, rain touched the glass like applause from the world that had once doubted him. Money hadn't saved them. Truth had. Because when you live with integrity long enough, even the cruelest lies collapse under their own weight. Sparkling heart, if this story moved you, don't just scroll away. Like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more real stories that remind us why kindness still matters.